Chair Gillette called the live hybrid state plumbing board meeting of December 19th, 2020 to order at 9:31. Debbie, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. In the room, we have Curtis Gillette, the chairman.
Here.
Thank you. Also in the room, the vice chair, Tyrone Bergen.
Here.
The rest of the members are connected through Zoom. We have Corey Frazier, who is excused this morning. Molly Keller.
Here.
Thank you. Jolie Bold.
Here.
Thank you. Stephen Matiaco.
Here.
Thank you, Steve. And then Christopher Wynn.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thanks, Debbie.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're gonna have the approval of the agenda and order of business. Do any of the members have any changes for the meeting agenda or the order of business? I hear none. I, Chair Gillette, rule the agenda approved as published. I, Chair Gillette, rule the draft minutes. Actually, does anybody have any issues with the draft minutes of the October 17th meeting? Hearing none, I, Chair Gillette, rule the draft minutes of the October 17th, 2024 final. The next meeting date is February 13th. 2025. That's awesome. So I'm going to be announcing our dates for next year, 2025. We're going to have a board meeting on the February 13th, April 17th, June 12th, August 21st, August 16th, and December 18th, 2025. Does anybody have any issues with any of those dates? Now's a good time to speak up. Hearing none, I, Chair Gillette, rule the 2025 board meeting dates approved. And hope everybody can attend those dates. For those of you that don't know, you can go to our DCD website, go to board on the menu bar, and that's probably the best avenue, and you can get all the dates, all of the boards, not just the plumbing board. Okay, agenda item number 2, public comments. Pierre, could you address any public comment items?
Thank you, Chair Gillette, members of the board. For the record, my name is Pierre Sabagh, policy analyst with the division. As of this morning, we do have some requests for public comment.
Jeez, I'm so sorry.
After that extremely rude interruption.
Would everybody silence their phones around here?
As of this morning, Chair Gillette, we do have some requests for public comment, but I believe these individuals would like to speak on agenda item 7A this morning.
Yes.
So it's at your discretion and the board's discretion if you would like them to speak when we get to the agenda item.
I think that would only make sense.
Okay, we will let those individuals who have signed up to speak on that agenda item when the time comes. If there's any other general public comment, now is the time to come forward.
Anybody have any comments?
If I may, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, and thank you for your time and opportunity to speak. I'll keep it brief. My name is Eric Ricie. I'm in Hermiston, Oregon, and are the principal owner of Pure and Soft Water. I'm here because I understand there will be discussion regarding an apprentice program for the water treatment industry. This is something I fully support. My company right now is involved in a state program on the nitrate mitigation in Morrow and Umatilla County, which many of you may or may not be aware of. This will be a long-term project. My challenge is finding enough licensed plumbers to accommodate and assist in getting things done in a timely manner according to my contract. I have 2 employees that if a program was to be put into place that could give me more capacity and a long-term job incentive for these people. I support our industry having professional standards in place and hope a solution can be made. So thank you for your time. I know you have a busy agenda, but I just wanted to bring that comment to your attention.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. And I appreciate all your hard work on the nitrate mitigation. That's a very important item in the state of Oregon.
There's nobody else. That concludes public comment, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Pierre. Okay, agenda item number 3, reports and updates. We're gonna have our plumbing program update by our Chief Policy, Andy Skinner.
Thank you, Chair Gillette, members of the board. For the record, my name is Andy Skinner. I'm the plumbing program chief for the Building Codes Division. I do have a couple items for the board today. Nothing too far into the weeds, but I like to also just kind of, for number 1, get out there. Everybody pretty well knows about this, our chiefs meetings that we have on a regular basis. We try to get them every month. But I want to shout out to Wilsonville. We had our first hybrid meeting back in September. So we're getting back to a live versus virtual meeting as well. And I really want to support more hybrid meetings. So I wanted today to just throw out there for any other jurisdictions out there that may be listening or you can communicate to, that, you know, sign up for a hybrid meeting so we can start meeting in person. I just think it's a more robust meeting, but make sure that you do have the equipment to be able to do a virtual as well. So if you need to, or if you want to volunteer to host one of those hybrid meetings, get a hold of myself or Marcus Stovall with the division, and we'd be happy to get it all set up or help you get it set up. Item number 2 is, if I communicated to the board here a couple meetings ago about the LMS changes for plumbing businesses doing installations of plumbing appliances, and there is an interpretation out on that currently for some clarification. What the division has found out during that time is there's been some challenges and confusion with contractors out there filling out our current application for licensure for business, specifically for the LMS. And on the current application, it asks for a signing supervisor to sign that. And we've made the determination internally that if you are a journeyman plumber or an apprentice with 2 years of experience, you automatically qualify. So we're going to update that application to address that so it's not as confusing. So again, moving forward, for those journeyman plumbers that are starting a new business or needing to get the LMS license, they do not have to have a signing supervisor's signature to qualify for that LMS. So I just kind of wanted to make that announcement as well. And that's all I have for the board today. Is there any questions?
Yeah, Andy, so just a clarification, and this is pretty important. This is the LMS license that a plumbing business will need to have, where you can do electrical to the appliances if it's 30 amps or less, per the update you gave us the last meeting. Is that correct?
Through the chair, Gillette, actually, the clarification is for this business license, it gives the installer the opportunity to reconnect any amperage of a plumbing appliance. The 30 amp comes in for whether a permit is required or not. 30 amp or less does not require an electrical permit to do that reconnect, but over 30 amp does. But you still need that LMS to reconnect any plumbing appliance that's hardwired.
Perfect.
Hopefully that clarifies.
It does. And I did that for the audience. And because this is important, everybody. Okay. Any questions for Andy on that?
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. We're going to go to the enforcement program update. Andrea,
Yes, yes. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Andrea Simmons. I'm the licensing enforcement manager for the division. I'd like to today to go over a few things, and if Michael, who is part of our staff on the board, there you go, so carrying his screen, pulling up the penalty matrix. But before we walk through the penalty matrix, I wanted to take a couple of minutes, especially for the new board members, to talk about enforcement and how our cases come about and what the process is. So we are pretty much complaint driven. The majority of our cases come to us from a variety of avenues. Inspectors, actually the industry will turn things in as well. Homeowners, property owners can turn things in. We have a contract with CCB, the Construction Contractors Board. And so if they run across something that violates our statutes, they will provide us that information as well. And we also get information from our site checks. We have 4 investigators that have assigned regions throughout the state. And so they will periodically do site checks pretty much every week. And then we also participate with CCB and others in doing what we call sweeps. And that we would all go to an area, kind of break up the city, if you will, into quadrants, and then check that particular area for any violations at that point in time. We, once we get a complaint, we will go through an investigation. We have 4 investigators with us. One is recently we had a retirement with Russ Starling, who worked with us for 10 years. Taking his place is Chris Titus. Some of you may recognize that name, and that he was an investigator here for a few years back in 2016 through about 2018, 19. He is now back and will be kind of taking Russ's place, if you will. So again, welcome him. We're excited to have him back with us. Once an investigation is complete, it is then assigned to one of our contested case representatives. You know our contested case representatives. Michael's online, and then I have Emily and Kathy with me in this room. Cases go to them. They'll review the case, review the evidence, determine what the appropriate charges would be or violations would be. And they draft what is called a notice, kind of notifying the violator that we think you did A, B, and C. And that's where this penalty matrix comes into play. That's on your screen for you to see. And if you want to, it's also available on our website under the enforcement page. What we use this matrix for, this matrix was adopted at one point by all the board chairs and vice chairs, and the boards approved it. We will use this to determine how much money we assess. And the matrix actually drives us to consistency. And so all the boards notify and provide the same civil penalty for the same type of violation. We have columns, if you will, for first, second, and third or more violations. That's within a 5-year period. So taking the top one with a permit violation, if it was the first time they got caught without a permit, you're going to have $1,000 civil penalty. They're going to have to at least pay $250 up to $1,000 if we enter into a consent order. Second time violation, you see that the penalty is doubled. They're now at $2,000. They don't get to stay as much as they did on the first time violation because now they should have known better. And so the minimum that they would pay is $750. And then the third violation would be $3,000, where they would pay $2,000. So again, as you see, it kind of progressively goes up at this particular point in time. To give you an example, and I won't go through every single one because you can kind of look at what these violations are. But if we had a handyman, which is one of our more common violators, is someone who's just doing some work. And maybe they're doing remodeling a bathroom, and so there's some electrical and plumbing work being done. They would, if they're a first-time violator, be assuming no licenses, would have a $6,000 civil penalty in the notice. That's $1,000 for no permit, because obviously if you're handing down without a license, you can't get a permit. You have a $2,000 penalty for no journeyman, because they don't have that individual license. And then a $3,000 civil penalty for a first-time violator, because now they don't have a business license. And so it would be $6,000 for plumbing and $6,000 for electrical in my example, because they violated both areas. And so that, but each board would have their own review of them. Once a notice is issued, few things can happen. If we don't hear from the respondent, that particular notice becomes final and they have to pay the full, in my example, $6,000 for using the handicap. They didn't respond, the notice becomes final, and that's what becomes due and payable. Most of our cases, however, especially with first time, we get people indicating that they would like to sell. And that's when they would work with the contested case rep who's acting on your behalf to come up with some sort of settlement, typically called a consent order, and they're in your packet. You have some today. These consent orders typically do a couple of things. We still find them in violation for all three violations, but we reduce the civil penalty amount. Depending on the factors of the case, what the situation was, it could be reduced down to the minimums that are on the matrix, or we could do somewhere in between. Once that, so let's say we assess, say they're going to pay $1,500 in my example. So if they pay $1,500 in my example, they have another $4,500. That is what we call stayed. What that means by stayed is they don't pay that penalty now. And they're making a promise to the board that they're going to stay out of trouble. Because if they do get in trouble within the next 5 years again, and they get caught again without doing work without a license, that $4,500 now becomes due and payable in the next notice piece. And so that's kind of an incentive, if you will, for them to stay in compliance when they have some money kind of hanging out there, if you will, over their head. They also agree to fully cooperate in this investigation or related investigations. They, and what that means is that, for example, if the individual who is doing the work entered into a consent order and agreed to cooperate, but the business wanted to go to hearing and have a hearing on the matter, then that person who signed the consent order has to fully cooperate in that particular hearing at that point. And so that's kind of where that comes into play, and we sometimes use it. So with their notice, they can ignore it. It goes into a final order. They can try to enter into negotiation with us and enter into what's called a consent order. Or in some cases, they can go to a hearing. They have that right to go in front of an administrative law judge, which is actually another state agency. And we have to then demonstrate through evidence and testimony that these violations occurred. They have the right to present evidence and testimony to show that the violation didn't occur. And in those cases, it doesn't happen very often, but the administrative law judge would then prepare an order with their findings that is then presented to the board. Every single time a case, as we sell into these particular agreements, is presented to the board. You have two areas, or typically two different matrices that are presented to you. We have one that contains consent orders. Those are the ones that we've negotiated down the civil penalty amount. The other piece is the final orders. Those are the ones that become final without them responding to us. So, and So every time they're presented to you, if for some reason we had a case that went in front of an administrative law judge, you would have a third item on your agenda because we would be presenting that with the information behind it at that point. But again, most of our cases settle and enter into some sort of agreement. Occasionally that's not the case, but most of the time that's the case, or they don't respond at all. And that's where we come into a final order. I know I've glossed over it quickly, but are there any questions?
If I may, through the chair.
Yes.
Just so I'm clear, after the 5 years, that falls off the record completely. So in other words, if they were to have a violation after that 5-year period, it would be like that was the first violation.
Yes, they would be. So after that 5 years and they didn't violate, it then becomes a first time violation again. At that point.
Stephen? You have a question?
Yes, through the chair, Andrea, as far as just not having permits, getting caught doing work without permits. So we contact, I would say we contact you or your division. And this would be for plumbing or in all phase, like plumbing for the plumbing board, structure for the structures board, electric and so on. Is that correct?
If the work was done with an unlicensed individual, most of the time, if it's unlicensed or unpermitted work, but everybody's licensed, you would work with the local jurisdiction.
Okay.
They have the ability to assess an investigative fee if they want for that particular piece, but they can get that permit issued and get the inspections done on that particular type of violation where it's just a permit violation, everybody's licensed. We spend most of our efforts in working on unlicensed work and try to get those issues resolved from that particular piece. Our
Understood.
cases, thing that I forgot to share with the group is kind of how our cases are split up. Most of our cases, about 70% are electrical in nature, and about 30% is plumbing. We don't have very many boiler or elevator cases. They're kind of more of a one-off, if you will. Any other questions?
Thank you, Andrea.
If you think of any more, feel free to reach out to myself or anybody on our team. Our information on the website, and we'd be glad to walk you through it.
The website would be the VII.D website.
Yes, it is the
Under-
VCD.
Enforcement.
Yeah, and enforcement, so you have to go to licensing first, and then, which is at the bottom of the homepage. And you'll see different choices there, and enforcement's at the bottom of the choices.
Well, that is very good. And I appreciate it because we did have some questions and all of us are newer to the board. And as we're agreeing on things, it's good that we're informed on what we're working on. Or if we wanted to test it, at least we have some knowledge. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
That is awesome. And when you, even all of you out there are looking and what was assessed and what was opposed and how much was suspended on paper, it looks like we just handed them, let them off, but hearing your explanations and they're basically on what I would consider a probation and keep yourself on the straight and narrow. We aren't going to come out with the rest of the money. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Andrea? Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And I have to catch myself where we're at. So now we're going to hear from Emily, and we have 2 consent orders as outlined in the enforcement matrix. And Emily, would you like to discuss these 2 cases, and we will have a motion required?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair Gillette, members of the board. For the record, Emily Roque, contest the case representative for the division. Before the board is a summary of consent orders recently negotiated by the division on the board's behalf for settlement prior to hearing. We've entered into consent agreements in 2 cases since our last board meeting. All settlements, including the amount owed and suspended civil penalties, fall within the guidelines of the penalty matrix and contain standard conditions. Board action is required on these cases. Summary of these orders are included in a chart in your packet. We've also provided copies of the actual orders themselves in your packet as well. The first consent order is regarding case C 2024-0038, VII.C Plumbing LLC. The incidents occurred in Lake Oswego and Hillsborough in February, March, and June of 2024. They involved the installation of a piston shower valve cartridge and a 90-degree ABS fitting and the replacement of a P-trap, Delta shower valve cartridge, and seat and springs. The respondent in this matter also advertised to perform services including installing faucets and sewer lines online. The violations determined in this matter were failing to hold a plumbing contractor license and allowing unlicensed plumbing installations on 3 different occasions, as well as advertising to perform plumbing installations without a plumbing contractor's license. The initial penalty assessed in the notice was $18,000. The amount imposed in the consent order is $3,500 with $14,500 suspended. The second consent order is regarding case C 2024-0040 for VII.C, which is related to the case I just described and involves the same facts with the exception of the advertising. The violations determined in this case were failing to hold a journeyman plumber license on 3 different occasions. The initial penalty assessed in the notice was $6,000, and the amount imposed in the consent order is $1,500, leaving $4,500 suspended. Again, board approval or denial of these consent orders is required. You can choose to approve or deny the agreements as a whole or take action on each agreement separately. And I'm also available for any questions at this time.
Thank you, Emily. Anybody have any questions for Emily? Hearing none, I'm going to make a motion to adopt the 2 cases proposed for resolution as outlined in the enforcement board report and issue final orders. Anybody care to second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Debbie, would you like to take roll?
Yes, sir. Christopher Wynn,
Yay.
Stephen Matiaco,
Yay.
you, Jolie Bold,
Aye.
Molly Keller,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tyrone Bergen,
Aye.
and Chair Curtis Gillette.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, then we're going to move on to a summary of enforcement cases previously resolved, and Emily's going to continue to summarize these 2.
Yes, thank you. Before the board, there are also 2 default orders. No action is required by the board. However, I'm available if you have any questions. The first default order is regarding case C 2024-0063 for Frank Niedzinski. The incident occurred in Eugene in March of 2024 and involved the installation of at least 36 new toilet flanges. The violation determined in this case was failing to hold the journeyman plumber license, and the penalty assessed was $2,000. The second default order is regarding case C 2024-0064 for Royal Dominico Inc. And that's related to the case that I just described and has the same facts. The violations determined in that case were failing to hold a plumbing contractor license, allowing unlicensed work, and failing to obtain a plumbing permit. The civil penalty assessed was $6,000 for that case. Again, there's no action required, but I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Emily? Hearing none, thank you, Emily. That's awesome. Okay, moving on. We have agenda 4, communications. There was none. Agenda item number 5, appeals. We have none. Agenda item 6, unfinished business, is none. Now we're moving on to agenda number 7, new business. And I'm going to ask Andy to introduce and review. We have a new, we're going to be, let me back up a minute. The board is going to listen to what we now have with the new water treatment installer standard, the MA 210 OGWA, and Andy's going to continue on with explaining what we're doing with them.
Thank you, Chair Argy, members of the board. For the record, my name is Andy Skinner, Plumbing Program Chief for the State Board of Building Codes Division. So what you have before you in the packet is
Said Chair Argy.
Oh, Chair. When I told him before the meeting today, I'd probably do that. Sorry, Chair Gillette.
He looked at me and laughed.
There's my one chance. All right.
Yeah. Take note, Debbie.
So what the board has before them today is just kind of a review, as Chair Gillette had mentioned. It came to the division's attention here several months ago that there was actually an apprenticeship program out there for the WTI, the water treatment installer. There's two individuals here today to answer any questions and maybe give some additional commentary, Donovan Simple and Michael Klodes. Again, there's no motion on this necessary, but they're here to answer any questions. This was approved by BOLI in 2018. And it came to the division's attention because they had a graduate come to the licensing and fill out the application for licensure. So that's kind of how we found out about it. I thought it was very important. Eric mentioned earlier today about the nitrate issues. The board's very aware of what's going on in Eastern Oregon and even Southern Oregon now as well. And so I thought it was in the board's best interest to understand that there is this program out there. If you have any questions, I'll turn it over to Michael and Donovan. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, Chair Gillette and members of the board. My name is Michael Klodes. I'm the chair of the OGWA WTI JATC. I can give you kind of a brief history and then you guys can shoot some questions at us if you'd like. So kind of the brief history of the licensing is in about 1990, the WTI was formed and it's in rule. It's a sub plumbing license for installing water treatment equipment. At that time, an apprenticeship was also formed. For whatever reason, the water treatment industry was not super enthused or supportive of a license, and there was actually very few people who obtained the license at that time. Shortly after, and I think it was 95 or 96, the apprenticeship went away. And that left with it an inability to obtain the WTI license. So fast forward a little bit, I started working with the Oregon Groundwater Association in the early 2000s, trying to figure out a way to create an avenue for people in this industry to become licensed. In 2014, I came before the Plumbing Division Board and we were instructed to create an apprenticeship as an avenue for getting people licensed. So that's what we set to task and doing. And it took a few years. We spent a lot of time really creating an involved, developed training program. And in 2018, we got our standard from BOLI on the training program. Now, we thought that that program was going to be introduced to the plumbing division because we were told that we wouldn't get our standard until it had been, but it was never introduced to this body. So that's why we're here today, is to introduce it, and you guys can ask any questions you have of us.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael? So I'll do a clarification and stop me if I'm wrong, Michael, but we've got everything from BOLI in our packet for the board meeting. So if anybody out there is interested, you can go to our board meetings on the VCD website, download and copy or download. And so if you do have any questions, we do have the packet in our agenda meeting today. Any questions for Michael?
You're the chair, if I may.
Yes.
Just curious, Michael, how many do you have signed up so far for the apprenticeship? I'm assuming that's back up and running.
It is up and running. It has been a slow process, to be honest. So currently, there's actually only 24 licensed WTI individuals in the state. Donovan and I are two of those. About half of those licensed individuals are actually active. The other half are not terribly active. So one of the big issues that we have is the number of training agents to help propel this program forward. So, and since 2018, we've actually only graduated one apprentice. We've only had 3 apprentices total. My first apprentice, he was actually complete with everything. He just had to take his exam and he decided to change career paths. So being that we're small, apprenticeship is very new for our industry. We didn't open up to allow it for me to take on another apprentice until we basically got through our first class. So it has been very slow going. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but the biggest component is the available training agents to help train our apprentices.
I made through the chair a follow-up.
Yes, absolutely.
I might have missed it, and my apologies. I was writing down, taking notes, but how long is the training program?
It's an 18-month program. It actually, in actuality, takes about 2 years for an apprentice to get through it. The requirements for the license is an 18-month, but we built it as basically a 2-year program. So what we do with it's 3,000 hours on the job training. And then we have partnered with the National Water Quality Association and PHCC to provide the curriculum or the in-classroom training. So they're doing the first 2 years of PHCC's plumbing training. And then the WQA focuses more on water quality, water testing, the equipment, how it functions. So it's a pretty involved training program. It's not, this license is specific to the plumbing portion of what we do as water treatment installers, which is a very important portion, but it's a pretty small portion of it. So we kind of geared this as an opportunity not to just provide the plumbing information, but actually when this person graduates from the apprenticeship, they are a pretty solid or have a solid foundation for what it takes to be a water treatment installer and service technician in general.
Thank you. And sorry, I'm hammering you with questions, but I'm curious. Is it similar? It's been a long time since I went through the apprenticeship program. Is it similar and where Foley has certain requirements as far as so many math credits and all that? I mean, it's been a long time since I've done that, but what are the requirements, I guess, to get into that program?
So the initial requirements just to get into it is to have a high school diploma. Once you get into it, there's rule for water treatment installers license as far as what I guess information you need to go through, and we mirrored that for our curriculum.
Hey, thanks, Michael. And I might say I am an educator, so I know the importance of proper training. So I congratulate you for this. And I encourage water treatment is big now, but it's only going to get bigger. And it's important that we have the properly licensed and properly trained people doing that work. We are dealing with people's safety and health with their water treatment, and so I congratulate you.
Yeah, we have a speaker as well.
I have a question through the chair.
Yes, Chris.
Sorry, just curious what the requirements are to become a training agent.
Training agents you can be a plumber. So journeyman plumbers can do what water treatment installers do. Water treatment installers are essentially, for this portion of it, is a sub-license for the journeyman plumber. So it's gonna be similar to the water heater licensing. So to be a training agent, you need to be a plumbing contractor, and then you have to have either a journeyman plumber or a licensed WTI on staff as the actual trainer. Which does bring up an issue that we have. I mean, Right now, we have two listed training agents, both Donovan, who's also on the call, his company and my company. And when we initially created the apprenticeship, we were advised to just kind of start small. And as we grow the program, then we can maybe open up more counties, go statewide, work on scaling it. It has been really slow going though, because of the limited number of training agents. I mean, this is a specialty. We do a portion of plumbing, but the vast majority of journeyman plumbers don't have much interest in what we do or really have much know-how because it is such a specialty niche. So I mean, that is one thing I would maybe want to bring up to you guys today too, is if we could come up with something to somehow support the efforts of bringing this whole industry into the purview of the plumbing division. And you heard from Eric earlier. He's running up into an issue with basically a public health emergency with nitrates in Morrow and Umatilla counties, and because he's not able to get enough journeyman plumbers to help him install those water treatment devices, they're not able to finish that project and contract in a timely manner. We do have a very experienced and robust industry. The issue is in Oregon is that the vast majority of them are unlicensed and technically performing their work illegally. And I think that's something that I would like to see this body at least maybe direct staff or do something to see if there's some initiative that we could do to bring all those individuals into the purview of the plumbing division.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Michael?
If I may make a comment, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So just a quick statement. For the record, my name is Aden Aerni. I serve as the lead technician for Water Systems Department at Stutzman Services. Chair Gillette and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to provide my input. I currently hold certifications as a qualified person for the CPI and LMS. I also hold my cross connection and backflow prevention license. And I've worked at Stutzman Services since 2017. Over the years, I have worked closely alongside and under the supervision of our licensed plumbers. I am reaching out today regarding my application to take the water treatment installer's exam. Stutzman Services has been installing and servicing pumps and water treatment systems since 1966, consistently adhering to industry regulations and best practices. Despite my years of experience and training, including working under licensed plumbers and former WTI holders, both my colleague Christian Wilson and I were denied approval to take the WTI exam. We were informed that our experience being solely in-state did not meet the current eligibility criteria, which require out-of-state experience or completion of the 18-month apprenticeship program that Michael was talking about. At Stutzman Services, we have implemented our own internal 4-year program for our pump and water treatment technicians, complete with logged hours of training. Based on this, we believed our experience would qualify us for the exam. However, it appears this was not the case. Currently, there seems to be a bottleneck in the process with only a limited number of individuals holding WTI licenses. This shortage has implications for the broader industry, as water treatment systems are frequently installed without licensed oversight or even with collaboration with plumbers. As someone who has specifically chosen to go into the path of a water systems installer due to a passion with the field, I am committed to following the proper channels and achieving licensure. However, the current process makes it very challenging, even for those with significant experience and a desire to adhere to regulations. I would like to respectfully request that the board consider finding an alternate pathway to allow experienced professionals like myself to be approved to take the WTI exam. By broadening access to the exam for qualified individuals, this would enable more licensed professionals to mentor and properly train others in the industry, helping to build a more robust and effective licensing system like Michael's trying to build, and Donovan. So thank you for taking the time to consider the request. I'm eager to contribute to the development that Michael and Donovan have been working hard for, making it more accessible and effective for the licensing process that maintains high standards while supporting the growth of qualified professionals in our industry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, right now, I'm not gonna address that, but I heard what you just said, okay? And I'll look into that. That's the best I can offer you right now.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes,
For the
please.
record, my name's Andy Skinner, Plumbing Program Chief, Building Codes Division. I just want to make clear too, for today's discussion on this topic, and Michael kind of explained, you know, there has been some transition here. In 1998 is when the language came into rule for the apprenticeship program. Statutorily, there is no requirement for apprenticeship program for any specialty license. And in the plumbing program, we have 3 specialty licenses, and water treatment installer is one of them. So I just kind of want to make it clear too, kind of historically what has happened here. And I think there's an opportunity at this point in time to steer this industry in a positive direction. So I just wanted to make it clear again, there is no statutory requirement for an apprenticeship program. That's all up to this industry on what they want to do moving forward. And I know Michael and several others have shared that they want to make sure that people are qualified and instructed and go through a robust program. But there is a disconnect here from where we started this program to where we have, as Michael mentioned, and even Aden spoke to as well, where we have some unlicensed individuals out there with no opportunity to be able to get to qualify for licensure. So just I wanted again to explain that so the board was clear kind of on the issues. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
I question through the chair, Chief Skinner and Aden. So if there's not a requirement for the apprenticeship program, what are some of the factors when somebody like Aden applies to take the exam or get the license? What are some of the factors that are looked at, whether approving or denying?
Yeah, great question, Stephen. So currently, because the industry in 1998, and I mean the industry, the WTI industry, had come to the board and asked for an apprenticeship program. Before that, really, any business could come to the board and have their own internal training program approved by the board. It didn't have to be a statewide, fully approved apprenticeship program. So back in 1998 is when the industry came and got the statewide language put into rule. So that's really what the division has to go by, is what's currently in rule when we receive applications for qualification to sit for the test. And again, in rule, it's in 918-695-0130. It requires an Oregon State apprenticeship completion of 18 months minimum. And that's why Aden and the other individual were denied. But it's, again, not a requirement statutorily. It's just something that industry has wanted to do. So it's up to me, it's up to the industry kind of how maybe they want to move forward on this issue.
Thanks, Sandy. Aden, I'm going to ask a question to you because I hear what you're asking, and is an apprenticeship program available to you, or who you work for? Can they offer any training to you to get you to where you can sit for the test?
So that's something I was curious about, because Stutzman's has had an internal training program that's actually 4 years, just because we wanted extensive field knowledge and experience alongside with our plumbers and our technicians that have been here for quite a long time. And I actually just found out, talking to Donovan, that before 2018, you could have a state-approved internal program that could turn out licensees. But from my understanding, as of 2018, that is no longer the case, and it now needs to be through BOLI or one of the other approved bodies to license. And so, being that I started in 2018, I have 5 to 7 years of experience, or 5 to 5 to 6 years of experience in water systems, backflow, and water treatment. But even with my logged hours through our internal program, since it technically was not approved by the state, I don't show any experience that would be acceptable. And so my question was, that's why I brought the request of possibly opening like a grandfather period of some sort to allow more licensed individuals that can then form a more robust licensing program.
As the company, and I'm sorry, do you own the company or you're an employee of the company?
I'm an employee of the company. It's been a family business. I'm the third generation, but I am the lead technician for the water systems department. So we have a plumbing department in our water systems, and I'm the lead in the water systems.
And have you been working with VII.A and getting a training program set up that is VII.A approved?
No, so I actually was not aware of that ability, and I'd be 100% interested in being able to do that.
And yeah, without looking into it on the surface with everything that's been documented, that would probably be a wise choice right now. And I feel for you, I really do. And you seem to have the intent of being properly trained, and you would like to get that addressed. That's not going to be something the plumbing board will be able to do for you, as in we've got documentation here from VII.A. And so I'd really recommend, and time is, it seems tough at the front side, but I think on the long term, going through those channels and getting the program set up at your business and then getting qualified in maybe 18 months to 2 years later, but you're well on your way of being a properly trained and licensed individual in the state of Oregon. Yeah. But I am going to look into it a little for you because you took the time, and I do feel intent, but I'm not going to make any promises for you at all, other than the documentation that is on the agenda packet from the VII.A. That you can copy if you don't have it already.
I appreciate that. One question I do have would be, is it in the outline there, do we have the ability to do so if we don't have a WTI holder currently staffed?
Great question. I'm gonna have to say no.
If I may,
Yes,
Chair Gillette,
please.
for the record, Andy Skinner, plumbing program chief. So this, as we're all discussing this is a huge issue in Oregon, and we need to come to some resolution. And again, Michael and Donovan, I've had extensive conversations with both of you in regards to the flexibility and the direction that your industry can go. To answer your question, Aden, if you were in the apprenticeship program that is approved by VII.A, which your company could become a training agent through Michael and Donovan, you would have to have, as Michael stated, a journeyman plumber or a WTI on staff in order to carry out that training. So that's hopefully that answers your question there too. I also want to throw out too, Michael and Donovan, that as a JATC and your JATC board, you do have some flexibility about allowing served time to come in to take place of the complete apprenticeship program. JATC 1 does it, the union does it, JATC 2 does it. So there's some options there for you as well to maybe just jumpstart some of these individuals that do have that experience. And then we, as Chair Gillette mentioned, then we can have some further conversations after that.
Thank you, Andy. So I'm gonna make you, I can't promise you the world, Aden, okay? I don't have that authority, but I will make you one promise. I'm gonna look into this a little bit. I heard you got a log jam or a roadblock here, and you're trying to get around it. And So I'm not gonna make you any promises other than I'm gonna look into it and I will get back to you.
Thank you.
How can I get back to you? Okay, Debbie's got your contact information and I'm getting it. And again, please don't have high expectations of me. That's all I ask. Other than I did hear you and I will go through the proper channels and look into how one could navigate around that roadblock if possible. And Michael, I'll also be probably talking to you or have Andy talk to you about what opportunities there are for that.
It'd be great to discuss this further. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Again, this is my personal, but I'm all about training. And part of the apprenticeship or the training program is to properly train somebody, and the proof of their completion of training is a license. And I think should be a sense of accomplishment, and also you're working with people's safety and health, and proper training is the name of the game. And so I congratulate you on that. All right, any other questions regarding this for Chief Skinner? The board is not required to make a motion on this. This is a bully. We just agree with the standards that are written in the bully document, and we're gonna move on from that. But I will come back and we'll see what we can continue to look into and discuss, okay? All right, moving on, we're gonna still stay with we're gonna go with Pierre. We're gonna review the approval of the chief's recommendation of the new continuing ed courses and instructor applications. Pierre, would you like to introduce and discuss?
Yes, thank you, Chair Gillette, members of the board. Again, for the record, my name is Pierre Sabagh, policy analyst for the division. Our state plumbing chief, Andrea Simmons, has been evaluating courses and instructors on the board's behalf. This past November, Chief Skinner reviewed 26 applications from 5 different organizations. This time around, 23 courses were recommended for approval. 3 instructors were recommended for approval. The final matrix is in today's board packet for you. A motion is needed to approve, amend, or deny the chief's recommendation, examples of which are in your agenda packet. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Pierre. Any questions for Pierre before we move to a motion? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the chief's recommendation for the approval of courses and instructors. Anybody care to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ty. Debbie, would you like to take roll?
Yes, sir. Christopher Wynn,
Aye.
Stephen Matiaco,
Aye.
Joe Leibold,
Aye.
Molly Keller,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tyrone Bergen,
Aye.
and Chair Curtis Gillette.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Now we're gonna do a little going back and retroing, do a little housekeeping. We have the IAPMO Training Service request. Pierre, would you like to discuss this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For the record, my name is Pierre Sabagh, and policy analyst of the division. This agenda item, as Chair Gillette stated, is brought forward by IAPMO. IAPMO is a national organization and continuing ed provider. They are requesting 8 hours of credit code related for all of their attendees that attended their annual conference this past September. I believe the conference was between September 23rd and September 26th. Their letter that was sent to us is in today's board packet. They even provided the attendees who were asking for credit from the letter. I don't think anyone from IAPMO is connected, but if they are and would like to speak to it, they can, but this agenda item does require a motion to approve or deny. This motion does require the board to specify what we are approving, so in your motion, please state that we're approving the national provider 8 hours related.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Chair Gillette.
Yes, anybody, we do have a IAPMO member. We have Jed Truman in the audience today. And any questions for Pierre before we move to a motion? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the IAPMO annual conference, 8 hours of code related credit for the attendees.
I'll make that a motion.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yes, sir. Christopher Wynn,
Aye.
Stephen Matiaco,
Aye.
Jolie Bold,
Aye.
Molly Keller,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tyrone Bergen, and Chair Curtis Gillette.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
And we have one last, we have another request to retro approve. Well, Pierre, would you like to discuss this?
Thank you, Chair Gillette, members of the board. Hope you guys aren't sick of me yet. My name is Pierre Sabagh, Policy Analyst of the Division. This is, yes, another retro, as Chair Gillette stated. This one is brought forward by local UA 290. Local 290 is requesting retroactive approval of instructor Shannon Sybrant, who taught the medical gas instructor course that's been approved by the fund board already for this cycle. That was taught on October 28th and 30th. Jeff Stallings is the one who sent it. I don't believe they're connected today. So for any questions, but we probably do have some.
We have Todd Card representing Jim.
Yeah, so if there's any comment or questions there, but as the last motion for retro, please just remember to approve the instructor's name in your motion or deny.
Yes,
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I'm thinking we may ask to get this approved.
You might be familiar with them, Chair Gillette, I'm not sure.
Motion to approve retroactive request for the attendees of course number 52805-373, taught by local 290 instructor Shannon Sybrant. Anybody care to make a second my motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ty. Motion's been second. Debbie, care to take roll?
Yes, sir. Christopher Wynn,
Aye.
Stephen Matiaco,
Aye.
Jolie Bold,
Aye.
Molly Keller,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tyrone Bergen,
Aye.
and Chair Curtis Gillette.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. And now we're down to our last agenda agenda item number 8, announcements. Anybody have any announcements? So I actually do. So I am one of the instructors at local 290, and so I'll speak. We did this about 8 years ago. It's not local 290. We were going to have a water heater symposium coming up in March, and it's put on by the American Council for Energy Efficient Economy. And it's open to anybody. And so they don't have an exact date set up yet, but I'm going to do the old save the date sometime in March. It'll be for all day Friday, all day Saturday. So by the February meeting, I'll make a date. But for the world of plumbing, this is a wonderful opportunity where we talk about water conservation and more importantly, energy conservation, doing more with less. I know I attended this about 8 years ago, and it was a wonderful conference. And it's a lot of people putting their heads together, coming up with more opportune ways to heat water amongst others. There will be other representatives there and I know the last time I went, I learned a lot. Being a plumber my whole life, there's always something new to learn. And this was a lot of experts in one place. And it's, for better lack of terms, it's gonna be a wonderful think tank for our future. So there you go. I had an announcement. And I will come back to the next meeting. We may, you can, and get some sort of brochure maybe added to the agenda. Again, this is not a local 290. We're just hosting it. It is for everybody and great opportunity. Any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll move to our adjournment.
I have a question, Chair.
Yeah,
Not an
Steve.
announcement, but just a question. Chair Gillette, members of the board, has anybody attended these IAPMO conferences, or do we promote that at all? And additional question within that question, do they, at their conferences, annual conference, do they do any of the voting like they would at the hearings, like they would the ICC conferences?
Great question, Steve. Jed, could I defer that to you so I don't misspeak?
Hello, sure, Chairman Gillette, through the chair. I am Jed Sherman. I'm with the IAPMO group. I look after the Pacific Northwest states, the Dakotas, and all of Canada. And yes, I've attended many IAPMO conferences, as have some of the folks sitting in the room right there in Salem. The IAPMO conference is very holistic. There's a lot of training opportunities that are there, classes that deal with codes and stuff. And then depending on where we are in the ANSI code adoption process, there are opportunities for the membership in the assembly consideration session to have their voices heard with respect to the code changes that are proposed for the upcoming cycle.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah.
Any other questions toward that end?
Where's the conference next year?
2025 is Palm Springs, California. And 2026 is in LA. It will be IAPMO's 100th anniversary. And we have quite a big celebration planned, as well as some community projects in greater LA and LA County to improve potable water and sanitation situations in areas of need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jed. And
You're welcome.
they do have classes, so it is some formal training. You don't just show up to auditorium. They actually break out into classes, and you can, with the time frames, and you can attend certain classes, and incredible information. Okay, any other? Thank you, Steve. Those are great questions, by the way. I appreciate you. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none. There being no further business, the December 19th, 2024 State Plumbing Board meeting is adjourned at 10:38. Thank you, everybody, and happy holidays.